You're listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
Welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast, presented to you by Game Time, the official ticketing app of CLNS Media. It's your guy, Pat Lane, as always, here with my man, Matt St. Jean. And Matt, we are just over a week into camp, and it was hot out there today. And Gerard Mayo, depending on where you read, is a player's coach or is not a player's coach, depending on who you read. Had them running a little extra today, which you love to see. This is where you build up that stamina, where you're ready to go and ready to play, 60 minutes come next month. We got, just over a month until the first game. And so, it's important to get those things in now.
I mean, talk about a month till the first game. It's a week until the first preseason
Yep.
game. So we're right up on it now. Despite all the hot weather, despite not having Bill Belichick as their head coach anymore, with players coach Gerard Mayo out there, they are still doing regular professional football conditioning, much to the surprise of some of the beat writers. But it's this is the dregs of summer. Hot, and this is where you put in the work so that when it's November, December, or January, you can still play good football.
That's correct. That is correct. And listen, we've had a lot of things come out about camps, specifically about the quarterbacks. And I just want to clear something up right away. Okay. I want to pontificate a little bit here on my guy, Joe Milton versus Drake May, versus the bum Drake May. We've all seen it, right? We've all seen at camp. Drake May has been the fourth best quarterback out there, right? Shaky, inconsistent. I assumed he'd be better than Bailey Zappi, certainly better than Jacoby Brissett, and obviously better than Joe Milton. And the only reason he's getting second team reps right now is because where he was drafted. If he was drafted anywhere else other than the number 3 overall pick, he wouldn't be getting the reps that he's getting. And frankly, Joe Milton has been outplaying everybody, and his arm talent is incredible and special. And so, I just think, now listen, here's my plan. And Alex Van Pelt, you can steal this one for yourself, okay? I think we should start Joe Milton week 1, and the first play of the season, right? Joe Milton in the shotgun. He catches the ball, takes one step, and then does a backflip. All right. Now, here's the thing, right? When he does the backflip, the defenders are going to be all thrown off. They're going to be like, wait, what's he doing? A guy that size shouldn't be able to do a backflip. That's crazy. And so they're going to be like transfixed, almost like, think about like a deer in the headlights, right? When it's just like, what was that? I didn't see. And then while they're all staring at them, Tyquan Thornton's going to be streaking down the sideline, and Joe Milton's just going to turn and just rifle the ball. Maybe not as far as he can because they'll throw Tyquan, but, rifle the ball, and Tyquan Thornton will score an easy touchdown. And I really probably only be good once a game. But I think if you could do that once a game, I mean, that's one free touchdown every game, all because your quarterback can do a backflip. So, I mean, I think that's the plan. I think day one, Joe Milton starter week 1, and it will be the Joe Milton trick backflip play or something like that. I think we'll call. I mean, imagine that. Has anyone ever done a backflip in the middle of a play in a football game? I don't think so.
Simpson did a front flip.
That is true. While getting tackled, doesn't really count. He didn't really do a front flip. He jumped and got hit and ended up doing a flip, right? He didn't intend to do a flip. Has anyone ever done like an intentional backflip in a game? I can't imagine anyone has. How sick would it be if Joe Milton did a backflip into a touchdown pass? It'd be pretty unbelievable.
That would be fun. But yeah, no, the obvious sarcasm aside there, do we name the beat reporter who has been?
It's Ben Volin. Who do you think it is? It's Ben. Everyone knows who it is. It's Ben Volin. Come on, it's just
Ben Volin being totally misleading about what's going on in camp, then trickling up to the Locked On NFL podcast and Colin Cowherd and all of the aggregators. It's miserable.
It's just all the And so the NFL Rookie Watch is one of those aggregators that's so frustrating because they post clips and videos, and I'm like, dude, what are you even looking at? He posted one today of like, there's arm talent that Drake May has, and then there's arm talent that Joe Milton has, and I'm like, I was there for that. I watched that play happen. That throw by Milton was terrible. I said to my dad, who was next to me, I go, Dad, Milton's got a crazy arm. Watch this. May threw like a great pass down the sideline. I'm like, okay, here's Joe Milton. And then he just threw like a pop fly to the middle of the field. I'm like, what's he doing? I was like, oh, that must have been intentional. Like, what? I gotta like make something up because it was such a terrible pass on air. There was no one there. He was throwing to a staffer. He wasn't even throwing to a player. It's some of that stuff. You just like, what are we even talking about? Do I think Drake May? Here's what I'll say. I was hoping, my hope, right, was that we were going to get to camp and we were going to be pleasantly surprised at how well Drake May was playing. I thought we were going to get to camp and I was going to say, hey, man, look at this. He is ready to go, right? Maybe he is. And maybe he can start week 1. That's what I thought was going to happen. We're not there yet. Now, just because we're not there yet doesn't mean we're not going to get there, right? In late August in 2021, Cam Newton was the starter in late August, right? It's August 1st today, all right? Certainly not late August. And so there's still a chance that Drake May could make a few steps forward here and become the starter by the end of training camp. But sorry, I'm a little too loud on the microphone. Thank you, Brick. Appreciate you. But I think right now Jacoby Brissett's the starting quarterback, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine.
This was I think Drake May has been slightly underwhelming, but still within the range of expectations we all had for what he was going to look like. And Joe Milton has been slightly better than I think we thought he might be. Because he has been outplaying Bailey Zappi, which for all of the jokes we can make about how Bailey Zappi has played, he, is on an NFL roster for a reason, started games. He's thrown NFL touchdown passes. He has won games in the NFL. I don't know how long he's going to be in the league, but, there are a lot of guys that never get to that point. So Milton being competitive with that at this point, I think you feel good with where that draft pick is. Obviously time for things to change for all of this because it's August 1st and they have weeks worth of practices before they're deciding anything official. And, as we know, I think everybody involved has been completely content if the outcome is Brissett starting week 1 and they're going to let May sit until he's ready. And that has been us included. I mean, I have been pretty much on the, start Drake May early train, but has always been with the caveat of if he's coming in showing you some of these things right off the bat. He hasn't shown it yet. He was always at least slightly developmental guy, and he's not there yet. Now, that said, he had a rough first day when the pads came on. Today, shells, he looked a lot better. He looked a lot calmer. He's figuring things out. He's making checks at the line. That's how this whole thing goes. It's not about how you look at the first practice. It's about how you look in the practices on, August 31st.
Right.
So I think the fact that May is already showing progress and improvement in this makes me feel a lot better. And if we look ahead to a Friday, what should be padded practice, and you'd hope that that's where May can take some of the things he did today without pads, build upon them, and translate it to something full speed.
Yeah. I mean, and look, I think one of the things that you're hoping to see is that mental side of it, right? And so the play that made Jacoby Brissett the most excited about Drake May this practice was a quick screen, right, to the flat. And the reason why is because the defense showed a zero blitz, and May knew to beat that, all I'm going to do is check to this quick screen, throw a quick screen, and bam, there we are, right? And I think that's the mental side of it is a big piece. And that's a piece that Drake May isn't used to, right? At least not, every play. And so I think it just takes some getting used to. When you play in an offense like UNC, it's a little bit of a, it is a transition to the NFL. Transition for every college quarterback to the NFL, but certainly in an offense like UNC. And so I think, there were growing pains. We knew there were going to be growing pains. When they drafted him, we said there was going to be growing pains. And then for the last 3 months, everyone's been saying, "Oh, no, he's going to be ready. He's going to be the day one starter." And everyone that knew what they were talking about was like, "Okay, well, hold on, let's pump the brake. Slow down. He might not be." And everyone said, "No, he's going to be the day one. So you got to start him day one." And people now are like, "What do you mean he's not ready?" And by the way, Mac Jones outplayed Cam Newton in 2021. That was Cam Newton. Like Cam Newton in 2021, really, I mean, no offense, Cam Newton couldn't play football. Like he couldn't play football, if we're being honest, right?
He could,
At least,
couldn't throwing at least.
couldn't throw the football. Right. And that's really what, and Mac Jones did a nice job with that for the time being. And then of course fell off after that. But like if he was going against a real NFL quarterback like Jacoby Brissett, would he be able to do that? I don't know. So that's,
Yeah, I almost think it's too early to even call this growing pains with Drake May. I mean,
right.
he has had 2 padded practices, I think it is. They still have 4 more practices. I'm assuming a number of those, 2 or 3 of them at least, are going to be padded before the first preseason game where he's going to get to adjust. Then I'm assuming he's going to see quite a bit of playing time in that preseason game against the Panthers. We'll see, but I don't know if Brissett's going to play. And if Brissett doesn't play, I wouldn't be surprised if Drake May is getting the full first half of that game.
Yeah.
Maybe more. So he's going to get quite a lot of opportunity there. And I remember when the Patriots played CJ Stroud and the Texans in his opener last year, we didn't come away from that game saying, man, CJ Stroud is the next big thing.
Right.
And look what he turned into. My first thought was, oh man, this offense does not look like it's built to suit CJ Stroud. I did not like what I saw in that game. And obviously I was wrong in that because things changed and players developed and it was just the preseason. So yeah, I think it's too soon to even call this growing pains. I think this is a rookie who got to the NFL and had a rough first practice or two, and we'll see. If it's week 3 of the preseason, I almost said week 4, and May is getting 2 quarters of every preseason game, and by the end of that third preseason game, he still looks like he did the first one. Yeah, I think that's growing pains at that point.
Right.
But we're not. I don't even know if we're there yet.
No, we're not. I mean, as I said, the first practice was a week ago, right? It was the 24th. They've had 7 practices so far. They've had 1 full week of practices. To make some sort of blanket statement about a rookie quarterback is insanity, especially when, for the majority of those practices, you didn't have, the other part of it we got to, really kind of talk about is, all right, what are we going to do with the receiving core? Who are going to be the receivers? Who are the top guys? Who's going to separate themselves? Who's really going to make a name? We don't know any of those things. Not only that, but he's not playing with the guys that are going to do that, right?
Yeah,
is he playing with Pop Douglas? No. Is he playing with Jalen Polk? A little bit. Playing with Javon Baker? A little bit, right? Is he playing with Hunter Henry? No. Is he playing with Austin Hooper? Not so much. So he's playing with 3rd and 4th string tight ends. Jaheim Bell has been banged up a little bit. Pop Douglas is banged up. It hasn't really been playing much. Kendrick Bourne obviously is hurt. So when Tyquan Thornton finally flashed in shells, we'll see what happens when the actual full pads are on. But he's been playing well, but still I don't know if I can trust. So I'm looking at it sitting there saying he's not even getting the actual receivers that are going to be catching passes on Sundays, right? And so how are we going to sit there and criticize what he's doing when sometimes going against number 1s, sometimes going against number 2s, but he's playing with number 2s for the most part. So it just that's the hard part for me is we're going to sit there and talk about this stuff and it's come on, no one knows all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're totally in the unknown period. I mean, the thing is, the coaches don't know yet. We're too early for them to really know what's going on here. You have an idea, a guess, an educated guess, but that's where we are right now. And that's why, if we want to talk about some of the details of what's been going on, they're still rotating the hell out of the tackles.
Yep.
Every time that we've come on here, we have
Sure.
felt pretty good about what we thought the tackles were going to be, and then they get changed.
Well,
Today,
I'm looking forward. I'm looking
after
forward
we-
though. They have a Darian Lowe left tackle today, right? Which is weird.
when
He's
they
been
had
at,
low at left tackle, and then Wallace backup left, Anderson backup right, I think is what it was.
It was bizarre. It was almost, and I think you are the one that tweeted it out. I almost feel like that was a, hey, what happens if you guys get hurt here? It's not full pads, probably not going full speed, right? Again, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. Let's just mix it up a little bit. I do think, listen, and maybe they're seeing something different on tape. Obviously, I'm not watching the all 22. I've seen, I was there for one full padded practice, and I've seen other clips and whatnot. Caden Wallace looked decent at left tackle. These look pretty good, I thought. Okorafor had some struggles at right tackle, but like overall hasn't been bad at right tackle. I just feel like if, why not just leave Wallace at left tackle if that's how you feel? Now, maybe they don't. Maybe they think, maybe they're watching something and they say, no, this is wrong and that's wrong. And I don't know. I'm obviously not privy to that information, but I'm curious to see what happens when they put the pads back on tomorrow, because I wonder if when they put the pads back on and now it becomes more of a running day and everything else, if they're going to go back to that, original offensive line. Now, of course, David Andrews will be back, which is nice. We were worried about that David Andrews situation when he came on Monday. Didn't know if it was injury or whatnot. It turns out his baby son was in the hospital down in Hasbro, and I think it's in Rhode Island. And so, but he's in good spirits. His son's coming home, which is great. So that's all good news. So he wasn't injured or anything like that, just taking care of some family stuff. So, that's a good thing that he's coming back. Obviously, it's a better thing that his son's doing better, but it's nice that he'll be back there, and I think that will be helpful as well, having him at the center.
Yeah, well, I think this is also, there's a variety of reasons they can shuffle the tackles around. I think the most obvious one is that they don't know who they want to start yet, and they want everybody to get looks at it. They're shuffling around not just between first and second on the depth chart right now, but also left side and right side.
Right.
And we had heard this previously in the offseason that they wanted to cross-train the tackles, get everybody ready to play on the opposite side if needed. Part of that is just to build depth. It gives you more options when you're building out your line. If you're looking to the future and that whatever guys you have, we can play at either left or right tackle when it's the draft and it's free agency, it gives you more flexibility when you're adding more players to the roster, right, because the ones you have more options. That is especially the case with the guys they have. Caden Wallace, a day 2 pick at tackle. Those guys are not always a sure thing. Chukwueze Okorafor is, is a veteran, but a guy who has lost a starting job before. But Darian Lowe, young developmental guy. Calvin Anderson is someone who had already played both sides coming to New England from Denver, and someone who's been a swing tackle trying to make a roster in the NFL. So, these are guys, I forget about what this means just in New England this year, but for them and their careers going forward, giving the opportunities to play multiple spots on the line is going to be good for them. In addition to that, Lowe is a guy who they've put in a couple different spots in training camp. He struggled at a couple different ones. Sounds like he's been better on the left side than he was on the right side. You didn't really hear the pass protection issues today with him there at left tackle, even though they're giving him that look and he had struggled before. So letting somebody, especially with new technique, they work through the technique in a padded practice, then you get to come to something a little bit slower and, reapply it in a different environment where you can, really get to learn your technique better. So yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to explain this. I mentioned if you're looking for guys to fill in for injuries, build depth, train your young guys, figure out who your best players are. I think they're still going to rotate for a while. I suspect that the Caden Wallace and Chukwueze Okorafor line is probably going to be what we end up seeing week 1 from what we have heard.
Right.
But if Calvin Anderson, if he gets a look here with the first line and he looks good, then, it gives you more options. If Darian Lowe shows you something, he is a developmental guy. If he starts to break through at some point here, it gives you options. And that's really what you want right now. And we're also battling for roster spots. We're talking about 4 tackles right now. Might only be 3 of them on the 53-man roster. So the more you can do, the better your odds are.
That's totally true. And I think too, like, we have to look at kind of what's out there. I'm hopeful that a week from tonight, those guys will be out there, right? That Caden Wallace will get that extended look at left tackle, right? And then they may want to say, okay, we're going to put Calvin Anderson left tackle, take Caden Wallace and put him on the right side. And so I want to see those guys play a good amount, right? Because, and whatever it might be, whether it's left tackle, right tackle, wherever, I feel like the middle is pretty solid, right? And that's one of the reasons why, and we've talked about this before, but it's one of the reasons why I like keeping Mike Onwenu at right guard, because then I feel like you have three solid guys in the middle, right? That you have City So and you have David Anderson, and you have, Mike Onwenu with Nick Leverett as kind of that super sub Ted Karras type player, right?
Mhm.
I'm very comfortable with those four guys on the inside. And so, and then of course you have Layden Robinson kind of as that backup as well behind there. And then I'm sure you have one or two other guys, Cole Strange, depending on what his injury status looks like, and, a few other guys. And so, but I feel comfortable with those three on the inside. Then if you can get passable play from your tackles, you feel pretty good about your offensive line. Again, you're not going to have a top 10 offensive line. You're not going to have a top 15 offensive line. But you could have a mid-20s offensive line, and that's infinitely better than they were last year. And so so I think that's one of those things for me that I'm looking forward to. So Old Man Mom was asking about Milton. So Old Man Mom, you weren't here at the beginning of the show. I went on this whole diatribe about Joe Milton, very sarcastic diatribe about Joe Milton being the number one quarterback. I mean, it's just, I can't blame Dov because Dov's not a real person. He's just an aggregator. All the aggregators, including Colin Coward, ran with Ben Volen, saying that Milton had been better. And by the way, let's be honest here, right? And I don't know what day it is. I can take a look back. I don't know. That was I made camp 2 days. I don't think it was the full padded practice. Maybe it would have been. It doesn't matter. One of the days, I will say, Joe Milton was the best quarterback on the field. One of those days. Brissett didn't look good. May didn't look good. Brissett and Milton looked pretty good. He looked pretty good. He didn't look great, but he looked pretty good. But you also got to remember, he's playing against a third string defense, like guys that aren't going to be on there, right? Like Mikey Victor and, Azizi Hearn and all these other guys that are just simply aren't going to be on an NFL roster come September. So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. It was one practice, right? One practice. So, yes, has there been times where Joe Milton has outplayed Drake May? Yes. But he's splitting time with Bailey Zappi on the third team, whereas Drake May has a second team to himself. And Drake May has also gotten run with the top team as well at times. So, it just, that's the stuff for me that drives me crazy. And again, the aggregators run with it because they don't have any other information. They just have the information that comes out from the beat reporters. So the beat reporters that are saying that, those are the people that are responsible for it. There's just more of an echo chamber online because half of the people that are, not half, isn't true, but a lot of the people that are tweeting about stuff are just tweeting it based on the people that they follow, right? And unfortunately, those people aren't following people like Cadlick and Taylor Kyles and Evan Lazar and Alex. They're not following those people because those people aren't inflammatory. They're not saying things like that. You know what I mean? And so they're presenting an actual real picture. They don't want that. They want the inflammatory stuff. That's how you get clicks. So, that's just like our podcast. We've now spent the first 20 minutes of our podcast talking about the offensive line again for the third straight thing. We have 12 viewers right now. This is why no one's watching, because we're talking about the offensive line. We could be talking about Joe Milton versus Drake May, but we're not, because we're talking about the actual things that matter in the football.
An honest discussion and not
right.
looking for
right.
clicks. I will say, while we're on the offense, we had said for a while, and this goes back to OTAs, that Tyquan Thornton kept looking good. And every time he kept looking good, it was, okay, that's good.
Right.
I was waiting until the pads come on.
Yep.
Pads have come on. He still seems to be performing pretty well. He seems to be playing with the ones. It seems like possibly they're starting to receive. If it's in two receiver sets, their starters might be Thornton and Osborne. Although, we've heard Pop's getting worked back in. Bourne's going to come back at some point. We heard Jalen Polk was getting work as just the solo receiver on the field when they were in heavy personnel. But there was at least a point when it was Thornton and Osborne as the only two receivers out there. And Thornton has had been getting reps at the top of the depth chart at the start of camp. So the fact that he still looks good and is still producing and is winning one-on-ones, and he's winning one-on-ones in the red zone, which I think is huge for his development. That short area quickness has always been a little bit of an issue for him when it comes to route running. Very happy to hear that. If Tyquan Thornton is able to improve and make this roster, that is a win in my book.
Well, and honestly, that's one of those things for me where like Tyquan to me was almost like a lost cause. Last year, I was like, okay, this is going to be the year. And it didn't happen. And I was like, okay, this guy can't play football. Like he's cooked. It just is what it is. And so I had given up hope. And now they pull me back in, right? It's the Serpico, right? Just when I dig them out, they pull me back in, right? But it's, to me, it's one of those things where like, man, I just, he can do something that nobody else on the team can do. No one else. And so that to me is important. And if he can actually play wide receiver, then he's worth keeping around, right? And so I am excited to see him certainly in the games. I think, too, the big thing that I'm excited to see him is next Monday and Tuesday in joint practice. That's what I'm really excited about, because that's when you're really going to see what Tyquan's going to look like.
Like a week and a half from now when they see Philly come in.
Exactly. Yep. So
and the actual games too.
Yep.
Anything live content, because I'll keep bringing it up until he gets through it. He has not played in a second preseason game because he has been hurt by that point in each of his first 2 years. So hard to get fully on board the train, I think, until you actually see him play, get through that joint practice and play against the Eagles. But it's awesome so far. You look at the receiver depth chart. We'll go through it real quick. Like Kendrick Bourne is making this roster. He's already back out there. He's not practicing yet, but he's kind of spending time with the team.
Yeah.
I have to think he is going to be off the PUP list before the season starts.
Certainly might be.
That's my guess.
And if that's the case, it muddies the waters a little bit for wide receiver, because now you have one less wide receiver you're going to keep, right? So that changes kind of the calculus of the roster a little bit. So that's going to be interesting.
That's going to come as we go through this. Pop Douglas is making this roster. Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, they're both making this roster. So that's 4. So then it comes down to who else you would like to keep. The next 2 on that list right now, based on play and performance in camp, I think are Tyquan Thornton and KJ Osborne. Part of that's also history, veteran status. Osborne seems like he's just solid out there, nothing spectacular. If Bourne comes back, I think KJ Osborne definitely becomes a cuttable player if they think Bourne can contribute right away, because I think there's overlap in skill set between the two of them. And if this is the other point I'm going to make, if they want to get younger, they have the opportunity to. Because I think you could look at this and say, all right, we're going to do Bourne, Pop, Polk, Baker, and then we'll keep some veterans in Osborne and Rager so we feel better about it.
Yeah.
But right now, Thornton sounds like he's playing well. Right now, Kayshon Boutte sounds like he's played mostly with the third string, but he's had moments there. Taylor Kyle said he's kind of made one really nice catch every day. He's going to have an opportunity in the preseason to earn a roster spot, no doubt about it. And then the name I haven't mentioned on here at all is Juju Smith-Schuster.
Invisible.
I don't.
Invisible man.
Hard to see a path for him winning a roster spot right now, and even with that contract, I think you're totally okay eating the money with where this team is.
100%. 100%. And listen, maybe you can get a 7th-round draft pick out of someone for Juju. Maybe. Probably not, but you never know. I would be totally on board with going young. You got a young team anyways, right? And so I'd be good with KB, right? So KB, Pop, Polk, Baker, Tyquan, Boutte. Those are all first and second year players outside of Kendrick Bourne. So that means KJ Osborne doesn't make the team.
Thornton's third year now, but yeah.
Thornton's third year. That's true. Yeah. Good point.
All rookie contract guys, really.
Right. And I just think too, like, we can make a strong case for KJ Osborne being on this team. I think KJ Osborne's a good player. but he also hasn't. I haven't watched KJ Osborne and been like, that guy's got to be on this team. You know what I mean? So I
He
feel
seems
like if
like he's
him,
kind of replacement level.
yeah. Listen, here's the way I feel about it, right? If him and Keishawn Boutte are at the same level, keep Keishawn Boutte. Why not? He's the young guy. You
When
want
I
to build this roster. You don't know where Keishawn Boutte's ceiling is. KJ Osborne isn't going to get much better than where he is. He just kind of is
when,
who he is at this point, right?
when I think the question becomes if you think KJ Osborne is like, a 75 overall in Madden, Keishawn Boutte is like a 72, or you keep a younger player.
Right.
And that, I think something will answer, and hopefully the players answer for themselves. This is what the preseason is for earning these spots. And I think we can pretty much safely say Juju is out, and we can put Taekwon in a good spot right now. And that leaves 1-2 spots up for grabs for the other guys who are bubble guys, and that's where special teams is going to come into play as well. Rager. Yeah, KJ Osborne, I don't think it's giving you anything on a kick return. So,
no.
Does Rager give them enough there relative to other people they have at the option to keep him on the roster if they think he's as good as somebody else? I think that remains to be seen.
Right. Yeah, and
we'll find out.
Yeah, like how do they view that kickoff too? I tell you, watching it was interesting tonight. And seeing what it looked like. I'm thinking guys they're going to be wide open and it's going to be easy. And it was not easy to return. And so that was interesting. It was just kind of interesting to see the way it went the first few times. And again, I mean, I'm sure it's going to play out very differently in different games, but it was interesting to see. And so, that could certainly be something that we think about, but then they might say, well, yeah, that's true with Rager, but like we have other guys who can do that, right? We think Antonio Gibson will be good back there, or we think, name whoever you want, right, will be good back there, and they can they're better at their position than Rager is, right? And so,
And then the other part of this calculus is who they think they can get through to the practice squad when cut down day comes.
Right.
Because Rager is a guy who I think, you probably feel good about the odds of cutting him and getting him back to the practice squad unless he shows something in preseason that is pretty good. And I also think if you lose him, you can claim off of waivers a Jalen Rager level wide receiver if you want
100%.
somebody like that on your practice squad.
Yeah.
So, there's that calculation. By the way, unrelated to this conversation, but Hall of Fame games going on right now, actually not going on anymore. There has been a huge storm that hit the area, and the game has been suspended.
Yikes. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, there's the Hall of Fame game for you. But
there you go.
Did you see the new kickoff in it tonight?
Yeah, it was different than I thought. Like I said, I thought there would be a lot more opportunity to break big runs, and there's just like a mass of humans as you're trying to run towards it. It's really kind of fascinating. Because you have to, what I didn't anticipate, which makes sense, but what I didn't anticipate was that the receiving team would be looking away from the kicking team. So they're both looking in the, away, towards the returner, because obviously you have to wait until they catch it. That was interesting to me. It was interesting. I'm not sure about that. So, but hey,
it's more exciting than the what do you call it? Than the one we had before. That's for sure. We're not getting touchbacks. We're getting returns, and on every one of the ones I saw tonight, it felt like somebody could break it for a touchdown.
Yes,
especially with how flat it is. The fact that everybody's lined up at the same spot, it definitely feels like if you pick the right gap and block it correctly, you get past two defenders and you're gone. So yeah, that's how these teams have handled it. Tonight, when more preseason comes around, I'm curious to see if we get a lot of variety around the league, or if teams are going to play this super conservatively with formations. I'm sure we're going to get a return touchdown at some point.
Oh yeah.
By the way, we talk about other games in the preseason. Patriots are next up.
Are they really?
They have the next preseason game. It's the Patriots Panthers, and kicking off at the same time next Thursday's Lions and Giants.
Okay.
But yeah, those are the two games next Thursday kicking off at the same time. Patriots get the primetime game, the one on NFL Network. So
Love it. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Primetime game. Patriots have many primetime games. They got the second primetime game. Thank you very much. All right. We got to take a quick break. Before we do, though, my dad texted me. He's watching NBC Sports tonight with our guy, Taylor Kyles, and Phil Perry, of course. And he said Perry said there were 7 sacks today on the first and second team offensive line in 11 and 11 on set. And, well, 7 on 7 doesn't make it. Well, maybe 7 on 7. That's possible, but that would have just been holding it. So I don't know how many of them. I'm not sure if it was. I'm not sure. I'm a little fuzzy on the details, what I'll say to you. But
okay.
7 sacks combined between the first and second team offensive line today. Not great. Not great.
No.
Now, again, Vidarian Lowe was out there. He has struggled all camp.
And Matthew Judon is
back out there
defensively too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, but for a unit that I thought looked pretty good, that's not a great sign. Now, maybe they play better if you put Caden Wallace back at left tackle and a core fullback right. I don't know. But, nevertheless, that's what I would say. So, all right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. There's a few questions in the chat I want to get to, and I guess we'll talk about the Judon situation maybe a little bit. The one thing about the calculus of the as we're talking about the roster, just super quick. The new change in the roster is a big benefit to the Patriots this year in particular, especially in the Christian Barmore situation. The Barmore situation is an interesting one. We have no idea how long it's going to take for him to come back. He might be able to come back at some point this year. He might not be able to come back at some point. We don't know. But you can put him on IR now and not have him be out for the season. So he does not have to be on that initial 53-man roster. That, right, as early as last year, if you put someone on the IR before the 53-man cutdown, they were done for the season. So you had to put that guy on the 53-man roster knowing he wasn't going to play right away. Then you could put him on IR, and then you could take him off at some point. That's not the case anymore. So you can put him on IR before the cutdown day and then have that extra roster spot and not have to worry about cutting someone and trying to get them back. So it benefits the Patriots right away. It's the right move. That's the right way to do it. It's stupid to have to bring a guy through the 53-man roster and then put him on IR afterwards. It's dumb. So, it's helping teams out. And as I said, in this case especially, it's definitely helping the Patriots out because he may not come back. He might be done for the year. We don't know. But he would 100% be done for the year if you had to put him on IR before the 53-man roster. So it just allows the Patriots a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
So anyways, all right, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Nothing beats the sights and sounds at Fenway Park when the Sox take on the Yankees. From the smell of good Fenway Frank to the cheers of the crowd, there's no better way to spend a summer evening. And with Game Time, you can make sure you're there. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. The Red Sox return to Fenway from the All-Star break in a few weeks to host the Yankees and Mariners, and using the Game Time app, you can quickly find the best value tickets for any game by looking for the blue check mark on the map. And with all-in pricing, the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right. So a few good questions in the chat that I think we should probably touch on. Old Man Mob asked about the center situation. We did talk about this a little bit, but Nick Leverett's kind of that super sub, Ted Karras type guy. I'm comfortable with him as that second center. He looks pretty good out there. when Andrews was out for those 2 days. And so I feel okay about that. Jake Andrews is still hurt. Not sure exactly what's going on with him. But you know what? If it's not him, that's okay. I got no problem with that. And so someone asked about, what was it? Oh, Jermaine asked, do you think we see Pop in the preseason? Pop Douglas, of course. What do you think, Matt?
I'm sorry, what was that? Pop Douglas?
Yeah, Pop Douglas. You think you'll see Pop Douglas in the preseason?
Oh, yeah. Maybe not game 1, but game 2 or 3, even if it was just a possession, they'll play him.
Right.
And he's not. Yeah. And especially because they're trying to figure out a wide receiver rotation. And if Bourne's not playing, then, it's going to be Thornton, it's going to be Osborne, it's going to be your 2 rookies, and you're just going to be figuring out, which guys play together the best, and then you're going to add Pop. And I think you kind of have to play him when you're figuring out so much new stuff like you are right now.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's got the red no contract jersey on. It's supposedly a hand issue, but he catches the ball for a living, and he's been doing that. So whatever the hand injury is, sure, they don't want him getting hit on that hand right now, but it's not bad enough that he can't catch the ball, right? So whatever is going on with him, I think he's close to being back to being a full participant.
Yeah, he was doing a lot more in practice today from all the reports, so I'm not worried about Pop. I think he'll be back soon. Although we talk about guys wearing the red jersey, the other guy wearing a red jersey today in practice is Sean Wade, who he departed early with an injury, as did your boy Marcus Jones. Both of those guys left practice early, banged up. Marcus Jones was in the Patriots social media video today playing rock, paper, scissors with the woman behind the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and assume he's probably doing all right-ish, but he did leave early apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's, not ideal, of course, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. So, this is a good one. Old Man Mob asks, who was your most important rookie other than Drake May?
I mean,
tough question.
This is really an offensive line or wide receiver question. It's about which position you think is more important. And I think it also depends on if Drake May is playing. But I kind of lean Jalen Polk here, just because I think they're going to be in a position to draft tackles in the future if Caden Wallace doesn't pan out. But they've drafted so many receivers the last couple of years. You really want one to become a reliable target pretty quickly. So I'm going to go Jalen Polk here. I know it's the easy option, just going with the next guy picked after May, but.
No, but listen, I mean, I think you really got 3 choices in my opinion, right? You got Caden Wallace, you got Jalen Polk, you got Javon Baker, depending on if you think Javon Baker could be that guy. Maybe he'll be that guy that they've been looking for. I don't know. But those are the only 3 options in my opinion. You could certainly make a case for Wallace. I think Wallace playing well this year could be great for them. But again, will it 100% stop you from taking a tackle next year? No, not necessarily. And as someone, I think it may have been you, mentioned, some of the top tackles next year are right tackles. So if he plays really well left tackle, you could still draft a tackle in the top of the draft. But either way, I would agree with you with the Polk. And I could even say Baker, depending on who it is you think is going to be that guy. I think Polk is going to be the more reliable target than Baker is going to be, but you never know. But I think that just makes sense because, as you said, they've just poured so many resources into the wide receiver room, and they've got almost nothing to show for it, right? So, they have 1 6th-round hit who, is good but not amazing, and they have Kendrick Bourne who's, good but not amazing, and they've missed on every single one of their draft picks, and it's my God, can we just get a guy to play well?
Well, and also, I think when you look at the way May plays football, he's a guy who I think can evade pressure in the pocket. But he's also a guy who's going to be a little bit erratic when he's young, throwing the football. And giving him a guy like Polk, who's got, big catch radius, who can catch a lot of passes. He's got great hands. He can be a reliable weapon for May. And that means that every time May's in trouble back there, he can just toss it Polk's direction. And you think you're going to be able to, not just make a play, move the chains consistently.
Right. And the problem with
it's not 1-to-1, but Drake May has a little like Joe Burrow in him, I think, where he's like not afraid to just like hang in there and take sacks and try to make plays happen and all that. Try to extend plays in a way where you worry about the offensive line. You obviously want him to have a good offensive line, but I think having receivers he can throw to will be more important early in his development.
I would agree with you. And again, like you said, there are offensive linemen that are out there, right? They haven't invested a ton in offensive linemen, although they have. They did spend a first-round pick on Isaiah Wynn, which didn't pan out. They spent a first-round pick on Nate Solder, which worked out pretty well, right? But you just feel like they just have never hit on a wide receiver. It'd be really nice to hit on one. So not since Deion Branch have they really hit on a wide receiver. And again, early in the draft. Obviously, they hit on Edelman. They hit on a few other guys, but,
Shout out Jacoby Myers.
That's right, baby. Drafted. Nope.
Just side note to relitigate this. I never understood how Jacoby Myers didn't get drafted. That never made any sense to me.
Yeah, it just didn't. I don't know. It's just strange. Like, it was just like, hey, he was pretty good. He was better than some of the guys that were drafted. I mean, like, I don't know.
I watched him, and my immediate grade was this guy is like a 5th round pick. Like, he was clearly developmental, doesn't have elite traits, athletic traits. But he was like switching over from quarterback still. But it was like, okay, well, he's got good hands. He knows how to get open. He seems to have a good rapport with the quarterback because he used to be one. Like, he should be a good possession receiver in the NFL. And that's exactly what he turned into. So,
but see, the problem with these, with a lot of GMs and a lot of teams, they don't want a consistent possession receiver. They want a guy that's explosive, that can move the chains, that has juice after the catch. It's the exact reason why they let Jacoby Myers go and signed Juju, because they thought this guy will be more explosive after the catch. Who cares about being reliable and catching the 10-yard pass every time? Whatever. I want a guy that can pick up yards after the catch. That's more important. Sometimes it isn't more important, right? And so the Patriots undervalued what Jacoby Myers could do, even after they had him for 4 years. And so, it's not necessarily a surprise that the rest of the league did, even though they obviously shouldn't have. It's unfortunate. It's so crazy because 2019, they drafted N'Keal Harry in the first round. Jacoby Myers ends up being a better player. 2013, they draft Aaron Dobson in the second round. And I don't know if Kenbrell Tompkins ends up being a better player overall, but he was more impactful for that team for sure in 2013 than Aaron Dobson was. So,
and that's not even mentioning the Josh Boyce selection that year too.
Right. Oh, God. I was so convinced that Josh Boyce was going to be good. Man, that guy was ripped. And
really good athlete.
Yeah.
Great short area quickness.
Couldn't catch the ball. Couldn't catch. It's kind of important when you're trying to play wide receiver.
And really, it never really translated to his route running either. He had a couple decent moments against Cleveland in 2013.
That was the end of that.
That was about it for him.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
I was just saying, we're over 45 minutes now. Do we want to talk about the Judon situation and where we are with it?
Yeah, let's do that. Before we do, Old Man Mob just mentioned something about Pop that I thought was interesting. He compared him to Tyler Lockett in the fact that Lockett doesn't take a lot of hits, is like really, really good at avoiding hits. Yeah. The only thing that I would caution about with that, Lockett's a little bit bigger. He's not much bigger, but he's a little bit bigger. And I don't know if Pop is as explosive as Lockett is. He's better after the catch, obviously, but I think that's kind of what Pop does. Right now, if he can't hold up, well, then sure. I mean, we can try something like that. I just think he's so good with the ball in his hands that you want the ball in his hands. You're risking him getting injured, obviously, but you want the ball in his hands. And so I think I like the idea and the thought behind it. I just feel like, I want him with the ball in his hands running. And so that's what I think the Patriots should continue to do until, again, if he keeps getting hurt and they have to go that way, then maybe you go that way because he's exposed enough to get open. Yeah. And so whatever, sure, if it's an 8-yard catch and he goes down, fine. It's an 8-yard catch. He stays healthy and he gets open. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I also think a lot of his injuries have been on kind of, weird things. Like he got the concussion against the Saints And that was him going up for a contested catch, and they landed together, and it was kind of an awkward landing, if I'm remembering that play correctly. Like, that's
so,
just
yeah.
part of football. He's an undersized guy, obviously. If he feels like he has to do this to protect his body, obviously, by all means, try to avoid as many tackles as you can. We want you on the field. You're a good player. But I'm not sure I'm at the point with the Tyler Lockett extreme where he basically tries to take no hits throughout an entire football season.
Yeah.
I think Pop is probably more durable than that, and he just got some bad luck last year. Obviously, we'll see. He's injured in camp right now, and that's not great. But we don't really know anything about the nature of the injury or how it happened, so I can't really take that into consideration.
Correct. Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about Matthew Judon a little bit. Of course, right. The Matthew Judon situation got contentious, left practice, was asked to leave practice, and then was in the facility the next day. Of course, we talked about this on Monday. He was back out there today. And, they had the off day on Wednesday. Mayo said he had a productive conversation with him, a positive conversation with him. I think is a good step. And he was back out there practicing today. Now, it wasn't full contact. It wasn't full pads. We'll see when they're actually in full pads, likely tomorrow again, if he's back out there practicing the whole practice again. But my sense from that is that Mayo, so there's one of two possibilities. Mayo either said, listen, you cannot be happy about it, but either we're going to sign you or we're going to trade you. Those are the options. I know you don't want to play under that contract. That is what it is. If you want to hold out, you can hold out. But if you're going to practice, just freaking practice. That could have been one option. Option number two is, hey, we're working on it. We're going to get it done. You're coming back here. We know what you want. You know what we want to pay you. If we have to meet in the middle, we'll meet somewhere in the middle. But you got to give a little bit. We got to give a little bit, and we'll figure it out. Those are the two possibilities. And so I hope it's the second one. But even if it's the first one, it's, hey, look, get out there and practice, man. We're going to figure it out, right? And so that kind of seems where it's going. I hope that means we're trending in the extension direction, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, of course.
Yeah, I think, my guess would be something along the lines of just, we, especially as a new team leader, Mayo and the new front office, saying, hey, we can't negotiate giving you any kind of new money when things like that are happening in practice. Just can't do it. And basically, if you want to have continued good faith negotiations, we are going to, you're going to have to be back out there, and you can't be going on Twitter calling us liars, all that kinds of stuff.
Right.
Because that's where it's up. And I appreciate the way that the Patriots seem to be handling it. Just because, no one would blame them right now for just trading Judon and saying we're going to be done with this. And the fact that they are sticking with him and handling it and trying to keep things in-house, I think is commendable. Judon saying that the Patriots haven't given him an offer right after Diana Rossini came out and reported that the Patriots had offered him, only for Diana Rossini to immediately put out another report 10 minutes later saying, actually, there have been multiple offers. That combined with Godshaw signing an extension leads me to believe that, there's no, when it comes to I don't really believe Judon when he says that there hasn't been an offer. Maybe he hasn't seen it. Maybe there hasn't been a serious offer that's what he's talking about. Maybe, I think the most likely is he's just playing a PR game because he wants to get more money. Which I'm not going to hold against him. I can understand that. But if you earn it out in public, that's going to come with its own issues. Glad to see him back in practice. Glad to see him, with the team. I did think it was notable. The guys, I think it was Pat's Patriots Unfiltered, mentioned how he came in the back entrance. He's not throwing the football with the fans. He's at the front of every drill. He's doing, veteran stuff, keeping his head down. In that same thing, they noted that Joe Milton wasn't doing backflips today. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of, for both players, hey, we like the energy. We love that the fans love you. We're going to tone it down a little bit and focus on the business.
Right. Yeah, certainly possible. Certainly possible. And so, look, we'll see. I think that they have to get it resolved. And Oman Mob, mentions Gilmore. And look, I've been saying this since when have I been saying this since October? I might have been saying it since before October. The second they gave him that contract, all I could think of was Stephon Gilmore. And I just don't understand why they did it. I just don't understand. Right? Where you just look at it and say, it's a future me problem. I'll figure it out later. And it's like, no, you can't do that. Right? It's like being at home and saying, I'm going to work out tomorrow. No, you're not. No, you're not. Don't tell me you're going to work out tomorrow. No, you're not. Work out right now. You know what I mean? Like, if you're really going to do it and you really want to do it. Like, and you're in the same boat with, with Judon, where you just say, like, look, either you're going to extend him or you're not going to extend him. Don't half-ass extend him. Don't give him the money this year because, yes, of course, right? Ari Shafir or whatever says today, like, no, not Shafir. That's isn't that what's it called? What's the HBO show? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Ari, what the hell is his last name? Doesn't matter. One of the guys that does the he's on Twitter a lot. It's just I don't know what the hell his last name is. It doesn't make a difference.
Welcome to this episode of Pat Tries to Remember Someone's Name.
This is a nightmare, dude. Just great podcasting. I can't even think of the name. I can't even think of the name of the stupid show that I'm talking about with what's his name, with Turtle and all those guys and whatnot. Entourage. Yeah, there it is. Got it. Nailed it.
Oh yeah. See, I'm uncultured. I've never seen that show. So
Jesus. Well, he's just young.
Hey, I'm still trying to finish The Sopranos over here.
So it's Ari
almost there,
Meirov,
by the way.
who does. He's like My Sports Update, like at My Sports Update or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So, but he was talking about, Matthew Judon is criminally underpaid at $7.5 million. Well, yeah, of course he is, because you took all that money from this year's contract and gave it to him last year. That's the whole point. Mm-hmm. And so this is where it's, everyone looks at it and says, well, Matthew Judon can't be getting $7.5 million. And it's like, well, yeah, I know that. But, it's one of those things where it's stupid. It's stupid. It drove me insane when they did it with Gilmore. It made no sense when they did it with him at the time. Then Gilmore got hurt. So then it's the whole thing. Gilmore's coming off an injury. He wouldn't practice. So then Bill traded him. Right. Again, got nothing. Bill traded him and got nothing.
If I had a nickel for every time that the Patriots gave a veteran defensive player in advance on their contract, essentially, only for that player to then get hurt and have that stalled negotiations on giving them more money the next season, I'd have 2 nickels.
Right. Right. But like the fact that they allowed it to happen twice is like, what are we doing? Yeah. And and this is where you can hold Belichick accountable, right? I think the end of his tenure there, starting in 2020, really, is where he started losing it. It was inexcusable for them to franchise Joe Thuney in 2020. Completely inexcusable. For them to franchise him and then not make him the highest paid guard in NFL history is just beyond stupid. Beyond stupid. Forget the fact that you signed no one in 2020. You would have gotten a 3rd-round pick back for Joe Thuney if you had allowed him to walk in free agency, get a 3rd-round pick in 2021. Instead, you franchise him on a completely lost season and then get nothing back in 2021 because you break the bank.
Well, and I think if you're going to franchise him, negotiate an extension. He is a 100%, good player.
100%. Listen, I would have been all for it. I said, you have to keep Joe Thuney. They franchise him. I said, this is great. They franchise him. It's going to be awesome. Work out a long-term extension. They never did. He became the highest paid guard in NFL history. Yeah, because he's really good. Like, what are we talking about? So that's one of those things where, like, it's obvious you have to pay up if you want him. And then, of course, I'm not going to rehash the Gilmore, J.C. Jackson situation again. I'm not going to do it. But, those situations and the Cole Strange pick and all that other crap, that's the problem. So that's where we are now. Then he does the same thing with Judon did with Gilmore. And now you're sitting there saying, maybe Judon thinks he's worth $20 million a year, and TJ says he's not paying $20 million a year. I'm not paying him $20 million a year either. I'm not doing it.
No.
But he's not worth that. He's not. And if I were the Patriots, and I'm making legitimate offers. I don't know what the Patriots are offering him. I don't know. If they're offering him 12 a year, yeah, he's going to say, go pound sand. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But if they're offering him $15 million a year and he's saying no, I might say to his agent, like, bro, go ahead. You want to go to Baltimore? Go call Baltimore. Ask them what they'll give you for a contract. Go ahead. You want to negotiate? Go ahead, negotiate. No one's paying him $17 million a year. They're just not doing it. No one's doing that.
Well, I think a lot of
You
this
know?
is going to be the details of that. How much of that is guaranteed, how many
Right.
years. Somebody might give him $17 million a year for 1 year. Are you
Right.
going to do it for maybe like 2 or 3 years that he might want
Correct.
at this point? I
Right.
doubt it. And
That's the thing.
I wouldn't be totally shocked if the resolution for this is a raise, an increase in guaranteed money this year. You just give him some more cash straight up, play out this season, and see where you land. And you kind of hope that him being on the team, being around the guys in the locker room with everyone, soothes over the issues. And before free agency hits, you can sign a 1 or 2 year extension if both sides are happy and want it, and he can get a little bit of that money then.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
And then,
especially with Barmore,
right.
possibly
I
done for the
agree.
season. I think
Couldn't
you'd like
agree with you more on
Judon
that.
just to have some semblance of a pass rush defensively.
Well, not, then Keoma can bump inside when on pass rushing downs and everything. But like, to me, I look at it and just think like, okay, do that. I think a 1 year deal actually might be the best option for them. And then you're saying a Judon, go out there and prove it. You want to get paid big money? Great. Go out there and have 12 sacks this year. Right? Stay healthy all year long. Play just as well in the last 5 games of the season as when you do at the beginning of the season. Right? All of those things come into account. And if he can do that, well, then you pay him. Or you don't. I mean, whatever. But then at least he's worth it. I'm not giving him $20 million a year right now. If he comes out and balls out and has 15 and a half sacks this year and looks great all year long and is a leader and everything, all right, maybe I'm giving him $20 million a year for 2 years. I don't know. Right? But I'm certainly not doing it right now. And so I think that's where we've come at this point. He's played 3 years here. The last 2, he's ended the season on IR. The one before that, he might as well have been on IR at the end of the year because he did absolutely nothing. He was a ghost. And so, that's where I look at it and say, hey, listen, I mean, maybe he can take a step forward a little bit, but we'll see.
Yeah. The other thing on this, we're talking about contracts and defense. Devon Gotcha, 2 year extension.
Yep.
At about the same price he was.
Almost the exact same.
A little bit of an overpay, probably. I'm okay with that. You kind of had to with the Baltimore situation, I think.
Yeah.
You need a veteran player on the defensive line who you feel good about giving you a lot of snaps.
Right.
And you have the money. You're in a spot where they can hold out and take a little chunk from you because they know that you have it. So from a team leadership perspective, from an on-field product to this year perspective, I'm okay with it. And, he's not a bad player. Sure, he'll be fine the next 2 years after this too. I'm not worried about the age with a guy who's that strong. So feel good about that. Not like over the moon, but I think that's just good, solid, unsexy team management right there.
I totally agree, and it makes sense. Bring him back, and like you said, especially the big thing is that especially with Barmore going down, you need guys on the defensive line, and Mayo pointed out they play different positions, obviously, right? They're not playing the same position, but having a guy there, I think, is important. And they did sign Mike Purcell today, who is the guy, if you don't know Mike Purcell.
Former Patriot.
Also the guy that screamed in Russell Wilson's face last year in Denver. So already a reason to like him.
Yeah, that was awesome. He was in New England briefly in 2017 on the practice squad, just like a solid backup nose tackle type run stuffer. Which I do think. Here's the thing: I think with Godshaw, I think at times he's almost better when he doesn't have to be your nose tackle. And I think when you're in run stuffing downs, you can put Purcell at the nose tackle and Godshaw at the 3 technique or whatever, and feel pretty good about your run defense in the middle. And Purcell is going to play like 20 snaps a game. I feel good about him making the roster. Bringing him in at this point. A little concerned about what that means for a guy like Armand Watts, who they brought in, who I think was supposed to do that. We'll see what he looks like because, he's not guaranteed a roster spot here. And the next thing is just going to be, Godshaw and Purcell are your run stuffers, and those are going to be your top two from that perspective on the depth chart. Who brings juice in the pass rush from the inside?
Right.
First name up has to be Daniel Aquale, who has had
agree.
some really good moments, at least as a designated pass rusher when they've used him there in the past, as a rotational pass rusher. He's shown it. Can he do that for you, for more snaps in a game? I think we're going to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly do, right? And you would assume that the top four right now, assuming Christian Barmore doesn't start the season playing, would probably be Josh Uche, Daniel Aquale, Keon White, Matt Judon. Right now, I would think that that's where we're at right now, but that could change. Certainly could change. Armon Watts, I don't believe is a nose tackle type guy. I think he's more of a three technique guy, so maybe he can steal some of those spots away from Aquale. I don't know, but we'd have to see it in a real game. I mean, it's hard to see it in practice. And again, I think those joint practices are huge for what the team can do. So I'm looking forward to seeing those. So, all right, I think that's all we got tonight. I think that's it. We covered a lot of offensive line talk, as always. Because, I mean, the offense, listen, I'm sorry, but the offensive line is the most important position on the field. You can't do anything if you don't have an offensive line. We saw that last year. Doesn't matter who's back there. We didn't really have anyone back there either. But it doesn't matter who's back there. If the offensive line stinks, they're not going to be successful. So we'll see what happens. So all right, we'll be back on Monday, and then Thursday night I gotta talk to the guys over at CLNS and see what the deal is. I don't know if they're going to be going live right after the game. I'm not sure. If they do, we obviously won't be going live right after the game, or we'll just do it straight on PNN on the Patriots Nation Network YouTube channel, and then release it on the CLNS YouTube channel after that.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of those would be fine. So we'll figure it out. I'm going to talk to those guys and figure out timing and everything, but we'll be with you certainly Monday night and hopefully Thursday night, maybe even Friday morning. I don't know. Depends on what the schedule looks like. So, but we'll let you guys know. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.